Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare again, here with you on the 5th of September 2024. I'm joined as usual by psychic medium and remote viewer Liz Cross. How are we doing today, Liz?
Oh, well, you know me, up bright and early.
Oh, yes, you are. Right. This guy is a guy called Joseph P. Farrell. Some people may know him, some people not. He's written quite a few books actually over the years. Um, well worth checking him out. Very clever researcher, very good dot joiner. So he's just released a video with a guy called Tino Struckman, which I strongly recommend people view and listen to. Part one is on YouTube, and then the rest is behind a paywall, but it's on PayPal. Sorry, PayPal. On Patreon, it's like $1, and it's well worth it. So there's a whole 3 hour interview. He hasn't been around for a while. I don't know if he's been ill. We'll ask him that. He collaborates with some people, Catherine Austin Fitz, for example. But as I say, he's quite a prolific content creator, if you like, before that word or that phrase even came out. So let's just grab hold of him now and find out how he's doing, Liz, please.
I have no idea who this guy is.
I know, that's good.
Okay. All right, I have him.
How's he doing?
He's got problems with his feet and legs.
Right. He hasn't been doing a lot of content recently. Is that to do with health?
Oh, you haven't been doing a lot of content recently. Is that to do with health? Yes, he doesn't feel well.
Okay. Um, okay. Recently, he did an interview with Tina Struckman. How did you think that went? Hmm?
Recently, he did an interview with Tina Struckman.
Yeah.
Tina Struckman, how do you think that went? He said it went great.
Yeah, I'd agree. Okay. Let's ask him about what he thinks about the current geopolitical situation. So, let's start with Ukraine. What's his current view on Ukraine and the Ukraine and Russia situation?
What's your current view on the Russia-Ukraine situation? It needs to hurry up and get over with.
Do you think anybody's trying to drag it out so that Ukraine doesn't collapse before the election, the US election, that is?
Do you think it's trying to be dragged out so nobody collapses? That was a good question before the US election. And his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions, it's when the money runs out.
Okay. But I mean, it's been, America is the number one funding for it. So when does America stop funding it? When does he think America will stop funding it?
When do you think America will stop funding it? When the taxpayers, well, his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions, if Trump is elected or when the taxpayers decide to revolt.
Right. Okay. What does he think of the current situation with the European Union? Because they've cut themselves off from cheap Russian energy, so they thought it was a good idea to pay 4 times as much for their energy. How does he think the European Union is currently doing?
How do you think the European Union is currently doing? It's being stifled, it's being choked, and it's on its way out.
Okay. What does he think of the situation in the United Kingdom with the new Prime Minister and Labour, Keir Starmer, and all the some of the draconian measures that they're introducing?
What do you think about the United Kingdom and Keir Starmer? He's a disaster. He's bringing the country down.
Do
His
you
own
think that?
personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions. You know, I have no idea what this guy does.
I know. Does he think that's by design?
Do you think that's by design? Absolutely by design.
All right. So Starmer and his bunch of people are basically order takers then. Who's giving the orders, does he believe?
Who do you believe is giving the orders to Keir Starmer? Who do you think that is? He believes that there's like a circle of people behind Keir Starmer. And who do you think that they belong to? He says they're their own unit. And this
Mm,
is what they do. They control certain sections of certain economies. What do you say? Why would they need to control certain sections of certain economies? And he says, in his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions, they want to wipe out humanity. Now, I don't know where that's coming from.
right. Well, I think part of it is because we are entering into the information age and we are now out of the industrial age. And in the information age, we basically don't need as many people. That's what they would say. What does he think of that thought?
Would you say it's the fact that we're going into the information age and we don't need as many people? Part of it, but he says they also are, um, okay, this makes total sense, right? And I've worked on stuff like this before. So I don't know how long back Spirit said there's this pyramid structure, this financial pyramid, and there's only, energy, money is energy, and energy is finite, right? Meaning we don't just have endless pots of money in the universe, right? Even though I know some governments think that we do and we can just print whatever and all that, but it always comes back on us, right? At some point, they always have to recapture the money that they're printing. So, what he says is because he believes that this group, if there's too many people, there's too much wealth being shared, right? And they don't like that. They don't like it. So, you have the bottom structure of the pyramid, which is the busiest, the fullest, the biggest amount of people. And then as you're going up the pyramid, all the way up to the top, where the point is, you know, you have very few people at the top with a lot of money. But each each part of the pyramid is the same amount of money. It just represents the fewer people that are in it throughout the layers. And he says they would like to kill off the population in order to hoard more money. That's what he believes.
Mm. Well, I mean, some people say that, the often referred to deep state basically is a bunch of people that are following an agenda which probably was created, some people say, by the Economist, which was a Rockefeller and Rothschild publication. Probably still is owned through them, through corporations, but back in the late 1800s, and these people are sort of following an agenda and have been doing so ever since. And they don't really care about elections, so it doesn't really matter who you think you're going to elect or whatever. They carry up with an agenda, and that's commonly referred to as, the powers that be, the deep state, and all that sort of thing. Um, does he think there's an overarching agenda that's been running for over 100 years, 120 years now? That's, these people, whoever they are following it. And, we either need more people, we need less people, we need more money, we need less money, that type of thing.
How long do you think that this has been going on? Do you think this has been going on for 100 years? No, he thinks it's less than that. He thinks it's post World War II.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that argument. I think it changed after World War Two because 100 and something years ago England ruled the waves, and we had the reserve currency and everything. But then after we basically lost both wars financially, then America took the baton that up.
Bring Keir Starmer on the screen, please. Because I saw his speech and I saw where it's worse than we ever anticipated. Okay, let's ask him this because he made this for those of us outside of the UK. You may not know what's going on. He made this speech about the Tory cover up. It's worse than they ever could possibly imagine. They're, what was it, 22 billion in the hole. He's trying to balance the budget, and how he's going to do that is by cutting pensions.
Right, but what he's not cutting is money for Ukraine. He's not cutting money for hotels for people who come across in dinghies, and all of those things. So he's paying for all of that. Apparently, there was a thing the other day that apparently England had spent out 180 billion on Ukraine, I think it was in cash terms, and about another 170 billion on arms that we don't have the money to replace. So we're sort of, short in that department, as are a lot of countries. But apparently, the best thing is that we're on the hook for loan guarantees that we've given Ukraine. And last month, Ukraine defaulted. So we're now on the hook to pay the. I mean, why are we doing things like that? I mean, well, I know why we're doing it. It's a rhetorical question, but and then yet he wants to hit pensioners and cut down on their allowances and things like that. I mean, that is the problem. He is doing things. His government and the previous government are doing things that they're not interested in supporting Ukraine. They're not interested in paying for people to come across and things like that. That does not benefit the guy on the street. And I think this is turning into a cauldron. This is like this is not good for the country. This is not good.
Right. So let's ask him, have you already began to cut pensions? Yeah, we started a few weeks ago. So you started before you made your announcement. Absolutely. I
Right.
think that people need to be aware that the UK pension is nothing like Social Security. Okay. Yes, you can talk about it as in they're one and the same, it's the same principle. But the UK pension is a fraction of what Social Security is, right? They definitely give more money here than over there. So pensioners over there really, really struggle on the state pension. It's peanuts. So why do you think it's okay to strip pensioners of their hard-earned money? There's nothing more we can do, he says. What do you mean there's nothing more you can do? There's lots of things you can do. You can stop sending money abroad, not just to the Ukraine, but lots of different countries. No, no, no. He says we're committed to that. What do you mean, like committed on paper? No, not necessarily committed on paper. Now, I don't know if he's talking specifically about the Ukraine or if he's talking about other countries, but I know that they definitely send money to other countries,
Oh yeah,
uh,
they do.
billions and billions of pounds.
Mm,
Why can't you cut that? Because those people depend upon it. And also, he says, we need it. It's important for trade agreements. But I'm like, what is the UK trading these days? I mean, they've pretty much just
not much.
made it impossible to do business there. I mean, I don't know what they're exporting. What is the main export in the UK now?
Are you asking me or Starmer?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Mr. Shakespeare, what is the main export?
um, don't know. Propaganda, government propaganda.
I
I,
mean,
I,
but
I don't know. I
what does
mean,
the UK export now? I mean, when you think about it, They used to export a lot back in the day, a lot. And that would also be dispersed. There was this massive trade throughout the Commonwealth.
Mm.
And what do they export? I mean, cars? No.
Mm.
What
Well,
is
I
what is
just had
it?
I had a quick look actually. I didn't know this. So apparently the biggest export is gold. 30, this is during the last 5 years. Well, this is up to about 22, 23. 32 billion in gold, 29 billion in cars, 29 billion's worth of gas turbines, apparently. 26 billion of crude petroleum, so oil, and packaged medicaments, whatever they are, 20 billion. So I
You
don't know.
still make cars?
Well, we do make them here, yes. Yeah, I mean, most of the companies are foreign owned. I mean, Jaguar and Land Rover now are owned in by India, company in India, Tata Steel, they're a steel company, big one. Um, so obviously Ford's here, but they're American owned. There's not. I mean, we still manufacture, as in, Nissan have plants here, the Japanese, but you know, they
Yeah,
they they assemble cars here, but the ownership is abroad. Let's put it that way.
okay, but what is British made that is exported now?
Uh, I don't really know because nothing really. I don't know. I mean, obviously there are things, yes. Um, that's a good point, actually. I don't know.
Okay, so let's ask this question. Did you know that you're barred from Jeremy Clarkson's new pub in Oxfordshire? Yeah. Were you ever going to visit? No, he hates Clarkson. He hates
Of
Jeremy
course,
Clarkson.
that's why they banned him. And also Clarkson is clever with publicity as well. So I mean, this guy would never go there, and Clarkson would never let him in anyway. So it doesn't really matter, you know.
Well, yeah, because it's British farmers versus the government. The
Yeah.
government makes it impossible to farm.
Mm,
If anybody wonders what we're talking about, there's a show, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite shows. It's Clarkson's Farm.
mm,
And Jeremy Clarkson, who used to be this car guy, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, but he used to be this car guy. He went and bought a farm, and he's been documenting sort of life on the farm. And every at the end of every season, he shows how much he's made. And there was like one year where it was like 100 pounds after all the expenditure, all the food he's producing, all the problems that he's had with government red tape. In the end, he worked so hard for a profit of like 100 pounds. And so
yeah,
now
I mean,
you've
it
got to
does
get
help that
creative.
yeah, it does help. A, he's a multimillionaire anyway.
Well,
B,
yeah.
he's also got a massive contract with Amazon to film all of this. But yeah, Clarkson originally was a journalist. He's a very good writer, actually. He specialized. He went into motoring many years ago, and he was probably the best motoring reviewer that the country's ever seen. There was a big series on BBC called Top Gear, which then, spawned so many different episodes and became a parody of itself in the end. But he bought a farm about 10, 11 years ago, but he had a tenant farmer in there. And then the farmer decided to retire, and then the farm reverted back to the owner, which was Jeremy. And I think Jeremy decided, you know what, I will learn about farming. And the funny thing about Clarkson is he's very divisive. People either love him or hate him. I love him. I think he's great. Because he speaks his mind, and he also he's done more for British farming. This guy's done more for British farming than probably anything. It's really, and that's probably why Starmer hates him, because they've obviously been trying to cut the food production and trying to pay farmers not to produce food and things like that. So,
Oh, that's what they're doing in the Netherlands.
oh yeah, they're doing it all over the place. Yeah, well, it's
That is
why
that
would
is
you cut
like
food
so
production?
bizarre.
Well, not really. Not if you want to kill people off. It's not. And also, it'll make the price of food higher because there's less of it.
Well, the
So,
price of food is already high enough now. I mean, let's ask Starmer this question. Are you trying to kill the British farming industry? He doesn't care. He just said to me, I don't care about them. Do you not think it's important to have local British farmers? No, we can outsource from Africa and other countries.
and that
But
and that is the absolute crazy thing. You've got farms on your doorstep, make producing the food, and yet he thinks it's better to bring it in from Africa. How does that work?
let's ask him, how does that work? Why do you believe that? I'm shocked by these answers, to be honest with you. I really am. Why do you believe it is better to to import from other countries all the food? Because we're moving away from farming. Okay, why do you say that? Because we have to eat. We're not robots. So why do you want to move away from farming? Because he wants to go all green energy. Let the onus of the emissions created through farming, through industrial production, be put upon someone else, not us. He's following, he just said to me, this net zero agenda.
Which is complete BS.
And that's all part of it, apparently. Now, I wouldn't have thought that, but that's what he says. So let's just confirm, are you saying that the net zero agenda means that you cut off farms in the UK? Absolutely. And he's talking about how much pollution, how much energy it takes to run farms. I'm just, and also what, but hold on, I have to ask this. So don't you think that trucking the supplies in is just as creating as much pollution as farming in your own country? He says no. He says no. Why do you say that? Because the onus will be on the international countries, their drivers. That's for them to monitor, but we want to be seen as a leader in green energy.
No, we don't. Okay, he wants to be seen. The UK population doesn't care.
Well,
Um, can
I
we
think
just?
it's pretty dangerous
Of course,
to,
it's fine. See, this guy is really bad for Britain. I mean, I don't know why anybody voted Labour, but I'm sure a lot of them wish they hadn't now. Um, this guy, well, he's on an agenda. He's an order taker, not an order maker, and he's told to basically, you know,
well,
wreck.
there was really no one else to vote for, to be honest. I mean, the Tories had done a bad job, and I mean, who
Yeah.
else were they going to really vote for? The
Well, we could.
independents haven't really proven themselves. You've got,
No, but it would have been worth giving them a chance because we know what we get with Labour. You know.
he's not going to be a one-term prime minister. I'm telling you now.
Oh dear. Okay.
Labor, how many years? I'm going to channel Churchill on this. How many years will Labor be in power? Will they be in power 5 years? Higher, 10 years? So 5 to 10 years. Okay. And then what happens after Labor are no longer in power? Does it go back to the conservatives? No, I don't think it does. Then what happens? Does it go reform? No. Who takes over? It feels like it could go independent.
Mm.
They've gone conservative for what, 14 years. Then they're going to go labor for 9 or 10 years. They both do such a bad job that they will do as you just suggested, which is give the independents a chance. I mean, this is quite far out to be making a prediction. but
Oh yeah.
that's what I'm getting. So at that point, would how is the UK economy actually doing? So let's go 10 years out. So let's or 9 years. Well, yeah, 9 years. Let's go 9 years. So let's move Starmer out for 9 years and see what happens. So let's go September 5th, 2033, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now he looks exhausted to me.
Okay.
As I look at him out, he's fighting a losing battle. He's clinging on to power, and that Angela Raynar, I cannot. Oh God. Anyway, my personal opinion doesn't matter, but that Angela Raynar, she's running. She's going to try to run. I feel like Starmer doesn't want to be there anymore.
No, well, he's done the damage, hasn't he?
So
Has he?
let's ask questions about the UK economy. How has the UK economy been for the past 9 years? It's completely, in his own words, shattered. What do you mean by that? We're in a deeper hole than we've ever been, ever.
Which, of
So
course, makes a mockery of what he was saying in 24 about, why things have got to get bad because of the Tories. I mean, it's nothing to do with that. They've got the reins of power. They can do all sorts of things, and they're choosing to send the country, down the slope. So,
okay, so let's ask this question. And I don't think it would matter if we're probing labor or conservative at this point, right? I still think we would get sort of the same answers. So what would you have done differently? What decisions have you made over the course of the 9 years that have been very detrimental to the economy? Well, okay, first one he says pensions. And have you really cut back on pensions? Yes. And they've also raised taxes on pensioners.
no,
Why,
right,
why have you done that? Because they have to pull the money from wherever they can, right? Pensions, which is what they control, okay, the government controls. He's telling me they have it's easier access to pulling the money from the pensions simply because they control the pensions than having to rely upon people doing the right thing and dealing with the tax hikes that way. It's just quick easy money.
right, okay.
That's why they're hitting the pensioners first. They control it. Have you ever thought about, tapering off some of the benefits? No, we can't do that. Okay. How's the immigration situation? We've managed to slow it down. How did you manage to slow it down? Have you been turning people away? No, but they have been dropping leaflets. What do you mean? In the countries where the influx of most people and say that England is full and what else? And that there's no benefits here.
Right, okay.
That's what he says. Are you still housing migrants or what do they call them? Asylum
Asylum
seekers?
seekers. Asylum seekers.
Is the process still the same? Yes, it's very slow. He's saying it takes 2 to 3 years to process a person, and then they have to pay to send them back. They have to put them on the plane, they have to get them back. So, in the meantime, the 2 or 3 years, you have to put them up in hotels. Yes, that's our responsibility, he says. Have you seen what percentage of the hotel industry is housing the immigrants? About 10 to 15%.
Hmm.
That's quite a lot.
Has there been any um, rumblings with the British public over all of the things that Labour have done over these years?
Oh, have there been any more rumblings with the British public over everything that you've done? Yes, many, many.
And the government response to that has been what?
The government response to that was zero tolerance. That's what he said to me, zero tolerance. So let's ask, what does that mean? We arrest them.
Hmm. Right. Okay.
So even peaceful, so have there been more peaceful protests? Yes. And I'm not saying that the last round were entirely peaceful. I'm not implying that at all. But going forward, I'm saying, were there, like, more protests? Were they peaceful overall? Did you have any more riots like that again? No, no, because we set an example at the start. Okay. Have you been arresting protesters? Yes. That are protesting your policies. Absolutely. And are you also still arresting people on social media for, basically protesting against your policies? If we have to, yes. Depends on the seriousness of their language.
Right. Okay. Um, this is
Let's ask this.
this is sorry.
Let's ask this. Have you achieved net zero? No. Have you cut emissions down a great deal? About 60 to 70%.
Doesn't
But in
matter.
order to do so, they've killed the industry. They're looking, okay, I get what he's trying to do. Okay, I understand this now. He wants the UK to go from being industrial, like really just take it out of the last bits of industry and make it into technology. He
Right.
wants the UK
Well,
to be a
yeah. I
leader.
mean, yes. Okay. I mean, as I said, we are moving from the industrial age to the
Mm.
information age, but we still need food. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a folly to try and get food elsewhere when we can grow it ourselves.
Are you a leader
Yeah.
in the tech world? No. California and the US are still leaders in the tech world. He just told me that. So, Silicon Valley, essentially, yes. So, do you feel that this has been a total failed experiment? Wholeheartedly, yes. That's what he just said. I see where they're trying to go. And I understand it. They're wanting to be leaders in the world. They want to be zero emissions, clean air, clean water. Everybody, hold on. Does net zero, I'm going to bring him back into today. Does net zero mean to you that you find a way to strip the vehicles off the road? Absolutely. Absolutely. The problem with that theory is, and now they're already seeing, which is they tried to mandate electric cars. Now, people don't understand how high the taxes are for the petrol in the UK. Eye watering. Absolutely eye watering. People want to complain over here about $3 and $4 a gallon. You don't have a clue how bad it is out there. In the UK, you're paying what, 8, 9, 10, I think $11, up to $11 a gallon. So because of the going all electric, and I know this is Mr. Shakespeare's area of expertise, because you're going all electric, well, now you're not getting the taxes from the fuel. So now this is why they're doing the pay per mile, which we called out. If you remember all those months ago, Mr. Shakespeare, we got that they're going to do pay per mile. Do you remember that?
I do, but bear in mind that we already have pay per mile. It's called the duty on the fuel. If I drive 1,000 miles a month and you drive 3,000 miles a month over here, you'll pay more duty. So you'll pay more per mile. We've already got it. Pay per mile. That it's got nothing to do with the electric cars. This is just a folly. This is to do with control. They basically want to stop people driving. Okay, this is an anti-car, anti-movement, anti-everything. They're using the excuse that they're saying that the EVs, the electric vehicles, they're not paying any duty and things like that. Okay, the electric industry over here is dying on its feet. Unless you are a business, unless you are forced to have a company vehicle and you get massive tax incentive, I mean, people are just not buying them. And the prices on the used market when they come off lease after 3 years have gone through the floor. Okay. The private sector is not buying these cars. They're not touching them. So, they've got a big problem here that, they're trying to mandate everybody drive them and people just don't want them. I'm not saying they have no use whatsoever. They do have a use in certain situations, but you know, they basically are useless, and they're not people. And the uptake on them is very low now. There was a big hype. There was a big, basically the government were paying people to drive. Well, if you get a free car from the government, then you do it. But when it's not free anymore and you have a choice, you go back to ICE, internal combustion engines. So
Right.
So they will not win with this one. They're not, people are not going to take up, the pay per mile with all the cameras and everything else is nothing to do with duty. Nothing.
Okay, let's ask. Have you okay, I gotta move him out of here now. Let's he's gonna be dizzy this morning with all the movement. And he's gonna say, Ooh, I've suddenly come over feeling a bit dizzy. Right. Let's go September 5th, 2025, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Have you put in pay per mile? Yes, and it's going well. They are putting it in. So is it very expensive? Yes, it is quite expensive. People shouldn't be on the road.
And have they reduced the fuel duty and have they scrapped the car tax?
Have you scrapped the car tax? We've modified the car tax. And what was the other question?
The duty and the taxes on fuel, has that been lowered?
No, it's risen.
Oh, so it's just yet another tax. So now we're getting taxed twice per mile. We get taxed in the duty and taxed when we drive.
Oh my
Awesome.
God. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, you're going to be paying double per mile.
So
So let's
what
ask him
Starmer
this.
is not aware
Mm.
of is because he doesn't have his ear to the ground, is that there are a lot of people now in England who have either left or are looking at where they can move to, where does a passport get them, that type of thing. There's quite a few people now that are thinking we don't want any part of this, you know. So as the asylum seekers come in, the indigenous population are thinking of moving out. So, and I think over the next few years, quite a few will. Obviously, it'll be the ones with money that go first because money gives you the choice to do that. If you have no money, you can't do it. But people, I don't see people putting up with this. I don't, he might have this horrible dream or he's told this thing, but the average guy in the street does not.
Right. So he are you still taxing petrol vehicles per mile? Yes. And also electric vehicles per mile. Yes, absolutely. And don't forget, in London now, there's talk of a driveway tax. So if you choose to not drive your car, in London because you can't afford to, because maybe they force you off the road. If you pull out of your driveway and you are in the congestion charging zone, which is due, there's always been talk about expanding it throughout the whole of the London area. That's £12.50 immediately. The second you put your tire out in the road, £12.50 per day. But if you choose to go green, as they say, save money, not take your car out every day, you're going to have a driveway tax. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't understand it. I really, I can't wrap my head around it.
Hmm. Well, people, it was set up nicely with the Tories failing badly, which they did. And it was set up that this guy would win his party, even though they didn't actually get that many votes. Most people didn't vote for them, but they also didn't come out and vote for the Tories as a protest. And of course, as was planned, he was he was a shoe in for the job. Him and his party were a shoe in for the job. You know, I mean, we reap what we sow. We should have, we should have not done what. Well, I mean, we should have not done as a country what's ended up happening, because this is going to be very bad. This agenda, this net zero, this agenda 2030, all these horrible things, which are communism by every other guise, are all coming in. You know, um,
But they're really trying to make the UK high tech and do
well, then,
away with
yes,
any
they are, but
industry
they
that
are, but they're
produces
not. I
pollution.
mean, they are not, because they can't compete with America. They can't even compete with South America. So, England will not be the high tech center of the world where you can't move, can't drive. Why would anybody want to come here when they can go to America or somewhere else?
Well,
You know,
because we want to see you, Mr. Shakespeare.
well, apart from that, apart from yes, apart from that, why would anybody want to come here
I don't
in
know.
light of what they're doing? Anyway, look, this has been. You're very clever, Miss Cross. Miss Cross, you're very clever. This was supposed to be a Joseph P. Farrell interview, and you've turned it into a Starmer one, which is what you wanted to do. I remember pre. So I'm going to bring you back now to Joseph P. Farrell. Hold on, if I can find him. There you go. Right. Let's have him out. 9 years, please. No, 5 years. 5 years.
Okay, he's diabetic.
Okay.
Let's go September 5th, 2029, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. What would you like to know?
Why are you laughing, Liz? Right. Okay, so let's get the current updates on the world, on the geopolitical. Right. How's America doing now?
How's America doing? It's climbing out of a hole.
Okay. What about Canada?
What about Canada? Barely moving economically.
Australia?
Australia going in reverse.
Okay. Great Britain, UK.
The UK stagnant, stopped.
European Union?
The European Union, surprisingly, is it doing well? It's doing well.
The whole of the European Union or just Germany?
Ah, the whole of the European Union. No, there's like two countries carrying the rest.
Which two are they?
Which two are they? Germany and the Netherlands are doing well. What about France? It's trying to.
Italy?
Italy? No, reverse.
Okay.
People will go where the money is. They have
Sure.
to.
Mm.
So I see again this exodus. We're still moving around. We're still, people are leaving Italy because the economic circumstances are dire in a lot of areas of Italy. What about Spain? Same thing. So you still have this big movement of people leaving certain countries because they have to, due to, money. They have to go make money. People have to make money. They do.
Mm. Yeah.
Let's ask him, what about the UK? Have we seen a lot of, local or native British people leave the UK in their droves? And they're going to places like South Africa, they're going to the Caribbean, they're going to Asia. I'm getting a lot of people are going to like Indonesia, Thailand. They're going to Asia. They're trying to stretch their money out as far as possible. They have remote jobs. What about Australia? I mean, some have gone to Australia. What about New Zealand? Not really. They're trying to stretch their money out for as much as they, for as long as they possibly can.
Right.
So are they still paying UK taxes? No, no,
No.
because the UK, actually, what he just said, and I'm like, yeah, the UK does not have the same American tax system. So if you're an American citizen and you go live just about anywhere in the world, you still have to pay American taxes. The UK does not have that implemented in place. So I have to ask Keir Starmer, at any point, are you planning to tax any UK citizen living abroad and earning money in another country? No, that impossible to keep up with. They don't have the tech to follow, track, and trace all of these people.
That's right. They don't. And it's not law. I mean, most countries, there are very few that are like America where you're taxed on your wherever you are. You can't the only way that you can get out of the American tax system is either death or you give up your citizenship. Otherwise, you're taxed wherever you are. But that's not the case in England. If you move to Thailand, you get out of the UK tax system. So
There
anyway,
is a mass exodus of UK citizens to Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines.
right, makes perfect sense. Yeah,
They're going to make their money work for them. They're tired of being broke.
of course. They're tired of communism. That's why. Anyway, I think very clever. Right, I think we'll wrap that one up now, Miss Cross, shall we?
Oh, yes, I think we shall. Of course, the front page news is what shall the country name the cat that's moving into 10 Downing Street? I was like, really? That's like front page news? Did you figure out a
Let's
name
distract. No,
yet?
I didn't even know about that. But it's Brendan, so it's just distraction, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll stop this one here. Thank you.